Okay, we're on. So, do you want me to go first?
Yep,
Or
sure.
can I go first?
Yeah, go for it. Yep.
Um, I will share my shit around. What to do, what to do. Um, this exact feeling, there needs to be a word for it. It's when you think you've got so much to show, and then you finally get the mic and you're like, oh.
It's like urine retention for. Oh, it's like I'm gonna get more slack from this cable. It's jagging on me. That's better. Oh, and I've maxed out my laptop, so I had to get a NAS to offload some stuff.
Maxed it out how?
Um, with all the
Storage.
recordings and stuff, it's hitting into virtual memory and starting to run like a dog. So I just need to move. It's a storage
Well,
thing.
mate, I genuinely hope soon I can cut you down to one tab. Right?
Well, actually, for the AI stuff, it will happen, but still.
Well, why would you need? So I've been playing with. I got an account with Browser Base, and I've been playing with scraping pages with that.
Yeah.
If Hal could do your page reading and scraping and summarizing, why would you browse?
Well, ultimately, I don't even want a screen. Or the screen is a passive display of the third box. That's what I really like. You just talk to it. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Actually, it's just you get a stick a monitor on the wall and you walk around and you just
So you
talk to
just
the
get
thing.
like a Chromecast, jack it into a TV,
Yeah.
and then, or so I looked into this, right? So the new Chromecast can run Android apps, so we could write a little Android app that can take over the Chromecast, and you could have arbitrarily many around the room, and then Hal would be aware of which
that would be
one,
brilliant.
and
And
it
you
could
just say, right,
drive.
house, stick something up over
Yeah,
there. Stick
yeah,
something up in the corner or
right.
on this
Yeah, yeah.
on
Oh,
wall
Hal,
number one.
I'm over.
That would,
You know, I'm over here now.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and then the Chromecast the Chromecast remote comes with a mic, and so you can hit the button on the Chromecast mic, talk into it, and it can go.
Oh, I'm sure you could also hack that for some kind of Bluetooth because years ago you got me these headphones I'm still wearing now. They're
Right,
awesome. The
that's sweet, right?
yeah, I can't remember the shocks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But there's a few things that you really want, which is like the you need a throat mic, and you need a
I don't in your throat mic. These shocks are like brilliant.
nah,
That's
but
like
as soon as there's noise in the environment,
oh, is it? Okay.
there's a new thing on Kickstarter that's like a it looks like a Bane mask, but it cancels everything around you.
All right. Well, we don't get any white noise up in Scotland except for rain. There's nothing else happening.
But as soon as you hop on an airplane, the mic
Yeah,
doesn't work and the
yeah,
voice transcription fails. But yeah, so you get basically these mics, one part of the sound system, or you can have a throat mic, which is the
yeah. All right.
best. Throat mics are used by the special forces, I believe.
They do. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I've used those before.
yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
but back when they were like $5,000, I don't know what they're costing.
they ain't much cheaper, but yeah. Anyway, okay. So the situation is backchat. The concept is fucking awesome, and damn it, I was really trying not to swear on these recordings anymore because I start listening to them, and then like if there's like a kid around or something, and they're like, ah. Anyway,
It's not like we're going to be demonetized.
we could be like de-mummyized or lose some other critical support pillars. So backchat as a system, I've teased this out theoretically as far as I can fucking go. It seems nothing but cool. Like it works in every scenario that I can think of, including the browser back button stuff, everything. So how I'm gonna do it? I've built backchat I've built the backchat branch and isolate and the mechanisms within Artifact to allow you to introduce yourself to Artifact and then start a new backchat session because you're a foreign machine, like an anonymous machine that just started for the first time. You present your public key that you generated. You get back a backchat session. You get an anonymous actor created for you. All those things. So I've done that bit. That's working very well. I also sorry, you're going to say something?
No.
During that same time, I also managed to speed up the testing significantly by learning how to snapshot Artifact. So I can like provision it, like deploy the GitHub authentication, deploy some extra data, and then I made a function that goes snapshot, and then for each test after that, it just reloads the database. So that's been quite good for testing. The way that there's currently no outstanding issues with the design. It's purely implementation at the moment. I'm currently at the place of making threads. I wanted to check with you what the naming that I'd given for threads and other components in the system. I wanted to check with you that made sense to you because in my head it's changed a lot since what we've talked about in the past. So I want to check that. And second of all, I want to show you what the UI effect that I'm going to introduce backchat with is. So you'll be in HAL, you're talking away. Whenever you either hit the backchat button or hit the back button to take you back to a place where you were focused on backchat, or in your in-band conversation you said the word backchat, or the current AI hooked up to backchat detected that you were trying to address backchat, because
backchat can do.
Basically when the backchat trigger goes, this is what happens. This thing's going to flip up from the bottom, like just like that, and then in here this whole page will be HAL, or the AI chat that we're used to, but this is backchat. And then when you go backchat, I want to switch to a new thread. When it does it, this happens. It drops away. And as that screen comes down, the session of HAL has changed. So you trigger backchat comes up, it slides up and takes over the screen. When you change what the active or focus session is, when this slides back down, it slides down and there's a new session. And that's the cognitive flow, I suppose. When the screen comes up, when it comes back down, you might be in a new place, and that's what
that's a good indicator, isn't it?
Right, yeah. And that's why I think it's really nice, because backchat slides up, it's taken over what was happening in the background. Most people couldn't remember anyway. It slides down, and there's a whole new changed environment, possibly, because of what backchat has done.
I like that a lot.
It's cool, right?
It's a bit like on a stage, curtains close, curtains open.
Yeah, curtains close. So you're like, curtains close. The stage is rearranged vigorously in the background, crashing, thumping, and tokens burning. Yeah. Curtains open, showtime, new scene.
Yeah.
Right? So that's pretty good, right? Like, that's fucking...
That is pretty good. I
yeah,
like that.
Yeah. And what I learned, too, was that Oh, please don't do this to me. Not now. Don't expire me.
Never heard of that backstage view.
In Microsoft Office, which is an Apple Mac program, they changed their UI a few years ago to have this.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, that's funny. No, that's funny. And they changed the UI to have this backstage view. And in the backstage view is where you do all the meta operations, like so when you're in the Office app, you're working in the file. Backstage view is when you're looking at all the files, and you can do things like sharing, export, security, all the things that don't happen inside the file, they happen outside the file.
Right.
And so this concept of backstage is kind of our version. Our version is backchat.
Yes, and I'm just looking down this list. This is the sort of thing why I get irritated with Google Docs, because it tends to obfuscate. For example, you can't do a search and replace on all your Google Docs.
No,
you know,
no, that's right. That's right. That's right. So every scenario I can run, backchat is there for us. When there is a remote session, a remote repo. So, for example, the CRM would. The CRM would be. Oh shit, that was unhelpful. So you'd have the CRM over here, and then you'd have basically Howl over here. When the session in the CRM has to exist within the CRM, otherwise it can't have access to the files and then merge back to master. So that means that I'm using a sort of like a symlink inside Howl, where, because I'm listing all your sessions under one folder, but some of those sessions can point to remote locations as well. So there's some information about the session that's stored with Howl in the home directory, but the actual contents of the session may be occurring in this faraway location. That's how I've dealt with that. I hope that's acceptable to you.
That makes sense. Yep.
And that means that, like, these files could be terabytes in size. You don't want to drag that in to Howl directly in terms of the Git history, but you might want to, or you do want to, store a hash of what the latest commit in that repo is, so that you can prove it, but you don't want the Git data structure to pull in those terabytes worth of files by doing a Git level connection between these two things. That's why you need that hard break, so that the Git level doesn't suck in the whole universe by accident because you just looked at it.
Yeah. No, that's good. That works. Is it chunked? Well, we don't need to go into that. I assume we can choose to chunk it or not. But
Chunk? What does that mean?
As in, you got 1 terabyte file. You can chunk it and index it.
Oh, right. So maybe not. I haven't. Definitely there'll be some form of chunking. How to handle large files is something we probably need to decide soon. We can either use the Git LFS system, but then that introduces a totally separate module, or we can
large file storage.
Yeah, so it's kind of good, and yeah, it's sort of like, I've never used it in anger. Like, I've used it, I've played with it, I know about it, I've looked at the design of the data structure, but I've stored a lot of stuff in Git and I haven't had to use this yet. So maybe we can get away with it without it, but definitely.
Probably will for the first year, I guess.
Well, because what we want to offer, like, I had one company talking to me about storing a lot of their archive data, which is like media files, like big,
Right.
chunky, 200 meg is a little file in this world. If we
Yeah.
had this system in place, we could just hoover that up and then store it on. I I came up with a design. I have a design for this that I'm pretty happy with. Um, we can actually, so Backblaze is they offer basically an S3 compatible API, but the price is, I think it's like about,
Whether it was six
that's the,
dollars per terabyte per month.
yeah, which is pretty baller, right? Like $6 a
Mm.
terabyte. And what it'll mean is if we can hook this up to Artifact, we can ingest, like, ingesting large binary files once we have Artifact is actually not that big an engineering task,
Mm.
because all of the hard stuff is the hashing and the storage of the hashing and how you manage the commit structures and all that. And so adding these binary files using the LFS format is pretty straightforward. And then we'd be able to offer, we could replace the file server at a job site with this, and it's cheap as shit. Like,
Yeah.
$6 a terabyte is
And I'm
you.
assuming that by calling themselves Backblaze, they're leading on performance. I'm guessing.
Nah,
Not
their
really.
performance is pretty good, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to be for what we're doing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, the either we could use S3, we could use whatever people want, really, whatever they feel comfortable with. But the point is that um, I looked into this in detail on how to do it.
Mm.
It's pretty much it's a go, but I
Yeah, the
just
egress costs are pretty good. That's where you usually get stung.
yeah, they are very generous in their egress.
Mm.
So yeah, will it be chunked? Yes, depending on how big the file is, depending on which type of storage it's going to, and all that. The chunking needs to be in several forms. Like, you need to chunk the upload, as well
Mm-hmm.
as the download, as well as the storage, as well as the hashing. So there's a lot of different places the chunking needs to happen. It's a
Mm-hmm.
personal pet favorite of mine, that one, and I can't wait to do it. It just, we don't have a need for it just yet, unfortunately for us.
Okay.
Right, but we'll get it soon, and I can't
Yeah.
wait.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Now, pieces of the puzzle. Right, so that was remote files. Yeah, that all seemed pretty good, right? System components definitions, our favorite topic. Okay, so isolates, there's no change to that, no debates to that. That's just pieces of pure code.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Helps. I'll come back to that later. I think that what we had said was an agent image
Yep.
is is actually
And sorry, go on, go on. Sorry.
is actually just an agent, because for some reason I thought that a multi-session agent was somehow different to a single session with an agent, but it isn't.
An agent being an instantiation, so you've got the image in a cold store, and you spin up an agent, but the agent is the same as spinning
No,
up an image
no,
on the
no.
server.
So that's what I want to change. That's how we had been
All right.
describing it. This is what I want
Yeah.
to change. A thread. I had lobbied to change session to be renamed as thread, but I think it's deeper than that. A
Mm-hmm.
thread, I think, is a running conversation, a stateful conversation with an agent.
Okay.
And I think that an agent is simply a static collection of system prompts, commands, and files that,
Which are, in cold storage, but
yeah.
then instantiated into a thread.
Yes, correct. Yep, that's what I think it is.
And the difference is, other than names, obviously, is a thread. Does it encapsulate, say, if there are multiple agents architected together, but you're dealing with one?
Yeah.
Is that whole thing a thread where you can just
No,
jump down and jump back up?
each one's conversation is a thread. So a thread can be having can be engaged in a thread with and can be engaged in a child thread.
Right.
So just because I'm the human and I trigger the thread doesn't mean that that thread can't start a child
Right. So
thread
you
that
can go
it
down the
converses
rabbit
with.
hole.
Yep.
Thread.
Yep.
Be quite useful to have a name about what that state is,
That
because this
relationship.
thread knows about this and this and this and this. I don't know, maybe a rope
Well,
or a cable or I don't know, cloth.
I think that's just
So
child. That's a child thread.
child thread. Yeah, okay, you can do that.
I
So
also
okay, so the thread is once instantiated. The very first time you say anything to it, you've created a thread.
correct.
So you've taken an agent off the shelf.
Yep.
You can have as many of those as you want.
You have as many shelves
Say
with as many
something.
agents.
Boom. Now we're talking about a thread, but the agent is what we're previously calling an image.
Yep.
But the agent is instantiated. As soon as you interact with it,
Yep.
that's a thread.
Yep.
That agent, depending on its architecture, can call as many other agents.
Yep.
Every time it calls one, the only reason to call one would be pass a message, and
Yep.
then you get child thread, child thread, child thread,
Yep.
child thread.
Yep.
All the way up.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, sweet. Now,
Yeah.
another way that child threads can be called on is not from the parent thread triggering them, but from backchat instantiating them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way that
Give an example when that would happen.
You're working with RecipeBot to get Rogan Josh going, and then you're like, I need to generate some artwork for this. For example,
Right.
you'd
Yeah,
go
like
backchat, take me to the art studio, bring this recipe with you,
Yeah.
right?
But inherently, that's no different than an agent getting an agent with a thread, instantiating another agent with a child thread. Backchat's basically doing that.
There's a big difference. There's a huge difference.
Uh-huh.
The difference is that for any thread, sorry, let me try again. For any agent in a thread to start a new thread means that that agent must be thread aware. That implies that the prompt has been loaded in such a way that it understands how to start a new thread and why it would need to start a new thread and what agents are available for it to start threads with. Okay, that's a big fucking area. And so you generally speaking should prefer to not make your agents thread aware, because you're coupling them.
Yes. However, you might want to have. Oh, yes, most agents, I agree,
Yep.
are being uninstantiated. There's nothing in the system prompt to tie them to a particular thread.
Yes.
You could instantiate them a number of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Now that area of when to make it thread aware and when not, that is an art, and that area is covered by helps. So helps, I think, are pieces of retrieval augmentation that are designed to help an agent in a thread complete more tasks than the agent on its own can do. And the goal of a
This is
help,
separate from isolates.
yes,
Helps are separate from isolates.
yes, helps are natural language instructions that allow us to fine tune how an agent will respond in thread
So the way I
without
would
altering the prompt.
right. So the obvious way of doing that, if it's to do that, is what do I call it? I think it's like a bootstrap prompt, something like that. So in some of these, let me pull up a version. Check what I was calling it. Oh, I was just calling it initial prompt. So you had the system prompt,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had an initial prompt.
Mm-hmm.
So the system prompt tells the agent who is and what's meant to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then the initial prompt gives the context of this time I'm running it. This is
Right.
what I want to do now. To
No,
swap
right.
out the initial prompt to something else, that sounds like what help is.
No. The help is intended to be injected in there like how retrieval augmentation works, where it goes and looks up, the user's prompt comes in, it goes off and looks up a bunch of stuff from a vast database, and it puts in like the top 5 results as context so that the agent can use that when generating
Right.
its next response.
Okay. It's interesting they said no there because that sounds very similar.
No, because you're talking about the initial prompt. Yeah, no was too harsh, but I'd say if I had to make it land on yes or no, it would land in the no camp because
Mhm.
initial prompt is different to ongoing retrievals because it only happens once.
Yes. And
And
okay, let me
all that really
measure
looks
to
like
the
to me
sorry.
is you all that looks like to me is you've made an agent that is compiled just in time as opposed to a help space system. Like a sys prompt with an initial prompt is the same as saying it's an agent that I made just in time. Whereas
Can I give you an example? Can I get the screen and we'll see where this goes? Because
I don't,
if
I
I'm
believe I fully understand what you're saying.
okay, all right. It's not the same as an agent because you can swap them in out. So, for example,
Yeah, but you
the
don't
one I'm
swap,
looking on the
you
screen
don't
here.
change them ever again, right?
Well,
So from first thread instantiation, you've got
yes,
system
that's
prompt
right.
and you've got initial prompt, and they don't change anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
So
first thing
that's the
is
thing that
like
outlaws.
stoking it.
That's what
Yeah.
outlaws it for me.
Uh-huh.
All that you're really doing is you're dynamically generating an agent. You're making modifications to an agent at first boot, and then you're running that, and then it's staying set for the rest of the thread. The help system is about having the thread run,
Mm-hmm.
and then the helps can radically change what the
Right. So you're not talking about an initial prompt. You're talking about
no
5 minutes into the conversation.
yeah
It says, actually, right, I'm going to go off, compile, or find a help and add
yeah
it into
yeah,
the
and
session.
I'm gonna inject it into the
Yeah, okay.
thread.
I mean, that's reasonable. That's reasonable.
Yeah,
I've not
that's the
needed
help
to do that.
system.
Yeah, I've not needed to do that, but these are
Yeah, you haven't,
chunks
but
of.
what I foresee the helps doing for us is dealing with the issue where you've also haven't really met the full onslaught of a bunch of angry users. They're gonna want the bots to change very slightly in ways that your system prompt can't do. Like you might have a really good
Yeah.
system prompt for customer service for the customer records bot, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
going to have 2 customers coming in wanting the customer bot to do slightly subtly different things, but you don't want to change the customer service prompt because you've spent a lot of time and effort and tests and it works
Right.
really
That should
great.
be changed very slowly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But the thread itself,
the thread
even
itself.
threads, you don't want to radically change.
Yeah, so you
Um,
can inject a help that is like, okay, when user Bob says,
is
give
a
me,
help then effectively? Say if I had a bunch of text files
yeah,
that I'd just for sake of argument, pre-written,
yeah,
and then the pretend, HAL.
yeah,
I think, okay, right, I'm going to now cut and paste that into the prompt at this point.
yeah, sort of, yeah, yeah,
Okay, all right, yeah. I
yeah,
don't see a problem with that. Yeah,
okay, okay. And it should,
yeah,
what that should do is it allows us very fine-grained control over the bots. The users wouldn't even see it in a lot of cases, but it would do exactly what they'd asked for because it will come in at that point and serve as the bridge to get HAL over the hump into expected behavior
yeah.
when the amount of effort to make it be innate to HAL to know what to do in every single circumstance is impossible. But a
There's an
help,
interesting, yeah. There's an interesting correlation, or interesting cross between at what point does an agent say, right, I'm going to find another agent and pass it off,
well, that's what I
versus
was hoping the helps
inject
would
a help.
be, because the helps would include sometimes instructions to call another agent. And so it's a way to make one agent be threat aware without making it directly threat aware. It's just help aware. And so if you made an agent help aware and the help said, call this agent with these instructions, then that's when you've made the agent threat aware.
Right. So that's the same as in that instance, one agent calling another agent. Effectively, it's compiling an initial prompt
Yeah.
or initial help and saying, right, go for
Well,
this. But there's also what you're adding in is you're 5 minutes into a session,
mm,
and you can retrieve or compile, even from external sources, uh, a help,
mm-hmm.
depending on the context.
Yeah.
So it depends on the agent that you're in being self-aware enough about, can I still deal with this,
Yeah.
or
It needs
should
to
I
either
hand it
be
off?
help aware. If it's help aware, then if it's help
Mm-hmm.
aware, then it might also be agent aware if the helps that it was
Yeah, the
given.
only time, well, there's quite a fine line, isn't there? The need to teach the bot saying, like, if all you need is a help, then crack on with your current session.
Yeah,
If it's anything
there's
bigger than that,
definitely a
spin
definite
off.
requirement in every bot that we produce. It needs to have the I don't know what I'm doing button. And it
Right,
needs to be
which was,
good at either
yeah,
ejecting out to be like, mate, I can't help you.
yeah.
Or
But at that point, I don't know what the fuck to do here. Um, the first instance is there a help, and I can pick
no,
up my session,
no, not
or can I
necessarily. Not
spin off?
necessarily, because if the bot was very good at saying I don't know, then it would go back to backchat. And backchat would pass it out to something much more intelligent, like um, a GPT 4.0 powered HAL with a
It's
really.
yeah, it's quite subtle, and I quite like it, because
It's
the
almost.
help is kind of a soft touch nudge.
Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just a nudge to get the bot over the other thing, and because
yeah.
sometimes you see the bot try and run a command with something that made sense to it, and
Hmm.
it errored because the system's like computer says no, and then it tries again. But if it just knew already somehow that that's what the command should have done, then it.
But also, you got some recency bias there. So, say if you're in an agent and you switch context, but wasn't a major one. It's like, is it raining outside?
Mm,
Um, a previous help, personal help for that user could be when I say, is it raining outside? I really want the percentage chance of precipitation in the next hour, or a yes or a
yeah,
no.
yeah. So helps
Using,
can also be preferences as well. That's
right,
what I mean. Like they let us really hone the behavior down to an individual user, where we have the intelligence being delivered by a generalized prompt that serves hundreds of people, and
right.
the set of helps can be right
And
down
this
to
is
the
the
individual.
self-learning thing. There's a thing I want to go through after this, but that self-learning thing where your HAL actually learns your preferences, and you don't have to
Yeah.
keep on repeating it.
No, that's
You
the
know,
thing, right? Because that's the
yeah,
irritating thing. You're like, this thing's smart, it's good, it's great, but fuck, it
yeah,
really annoys me. I wish it would
yeah,
just get this one thing right. And the help system lets us, first of all, we can show the user if they want to know how the help system is being enacted so that they can go through and be like, who told you that? Get rid of that. That's not me. But
yeah.
it critically gives us this very, very personalized ability, as well as like helps can be quite broad as well. They can tell you how to do a wide range of things. Um,
Right, right,
okay,
right.
so
Yeah,
these
I
names
agree.
we're cool with?
Shall we nail this down because we've been.
Yeah,
Let's do it
dancing
now.
around this thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
isolates piece of conventional code packaged in such a way as to be callable by AI models, including in that API calls to like Serper or database or anything like that. But it's dumb code. It's a bit pejorative, but you know what I talk about. It just does it. Um, so helps pieces of text that contain instructions for an agent to expand and fine tune their abilities to get the job done. I'd add in after get jobs done in thread.
when else would an agent can't do jobs outside of thread?
No, it can spin up another agent and ask and wait for its response.
That's still getting the job done.
Helps pieces of text that contain instructions for an agent. Basically, what we're doing is we're injecting text into the session.
Correct. System. We're extending the system prompt mid-thread.
Oh, system prompt. Oh, I thought
Well,
it was a
because
session.
you can no, because you can say that it came from system,
Oh, so it's injecting into system. Okay.
right? So when you look at the thread, it'll go system prompt, user assistant, and then when a help got loaded, it would go system prompt again. So the original system prompt's still there and has
Yeah.
whatever priority, but there's also this
Yeah.
additional information being added in the system prompt.
That's very close to spinning off an agent. What's the difference?
The difference is it stayed in thread and it had the thread context with it, which is crucial.
Right. That's a crucial piece. So spinning
Yeah,
off an agent, you're just passing off a message, a command. Do this.
yeah,
Thank you. You
yeah,
don't know why I'm asking. You don't care.
yeah.
Just do it.
An agent is an isolation boundary where it narrows the scope so that the agent has a much higher chance of success because it's focused.
So I missed that. I thought you were talking about just injecting into the session, but if you're injecting into the sysprompt at that
It's
point,
not.
it's
It's
like
not
it's
technically
like
the
in
sysprompt.
thread.
It's not. It's not injecting in the original sysprompt. It's putting another system message in at the current point in the thread.
I think I can do that. You need to, well, in the same way as I remember when I was doing the how when they change the topics, it can bump itself back up. The reason I'm saying back up, at some point where you've talked about your CRM, you've talked about weather, and then you want to go back and talk about CRM. You want to pop back up and not have it talk about spooky stuff about weather.
Right. Sorry, I missed
Um,
why that was important here.
the important thing is if you now it's not really is it a system prompt because your
It's a system message.
instantiation.
The system prompt. The way we'd been talking, the system prompt was the very first system message that
Right,
the
and
thread
it
started
has
with.
priority.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
I can do a message that is tagged as system. The role is system. I can put that in at any point in the conversation. I don't know exactly the behavior that induces, but from
Oh,
the
I
book,
haven't come across that. That's interesting.
yeah, I'll show you. So from the docs, um,
And so,
when you do that, it's meant to just sort of
does it
doctor up,
override?
not
Does it override
override.
the
It
previous?
doesn't override. So I can go. Uh,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, yeah,
So right, so it's like
yeah.
system, user, assistant, system, and it's in the middle of the thread. That's all.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah,
Okay.
I see what you're saying now.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been using this. The uh, the thing I was talking about in terms of context is if you go back to your original session talking about CRMs, having talked about the weather,
Mm.
uh, what's the mechanism for saying, okay, we're not talking about weather, maybe stash that. We might come back and talk about the weather. But now I want to talk about CRM. I don't want that polluted with anything to do with weather.
I think that would be a backchat call. But if you were talking to a bot that was wise enough to be topic aware, the
Hmm.
bot itself should call backchat for you. I think
Right, right, okay.
the architecture of how I'm doing this is important. I think for you to understand.
Yeah.
I'm making every single prompt go through on the server side. Every prompt goes backchat first and then gets relayed to the session. That gives backchat a chance to intercept it. Now, at the
Mm-hmm.
moment, we're only doing the intercept based on the keyword. It needs to start with something that looks and
But
sounds like backchat.
but it
But
could be a context switch.
it
Yeah.
could be an AI that quickly ran off and was like, consider this message. Does it sound like the user wants to call backchat in some way, or does it sound like it should go to the prompt talking about Rogan Josh? And
Right.
then that will make a decision. Am I going to interject here, or am I going to send this off to the session?
Yeah. Okay. So you're written through backchat every time. Backchat is saying you're all
Backchat,
good
yeah.
guys, crack on, and it's like,
Backchat
oh,
is always
okay, he's talking
watching.
about weather
Backchat
now.
is the overlord in control of everything you do. You can't do
So
anything except through Backchat, which gives Backchat a chance to save your ass
so
if you
is it
fuck it up.
backchat that injects the help sys prompt? So every time you go talking about CRM, now talking about weather, everything goes through backchat. Backchat goes, hold on a second, you just changed context. Right, got you. I'm going to have a look for helps. I'm going to inject this is help, and then
No,
reply from there.
Backchat is not the one that goes and injects helps. The the agent running needs to be prompted or not prompted to be able to use the help system. And if it is able to use the help system, the agent manages it, not Backchat. Backchat only manages agents and
Okay, all right,
threads.
all right. So backchat notices that you've just changed context.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay,
Changing
and then
context. Changing context, I think, should be done by. You're right. It is changing context should probably be a backchat level task where it's like, fuck, did this
yeah,
guy just
and
switch?
it doesn't need to know. All it need to say is, I think the user's just changed context back
Yeah,
to
it
the
doesn't need to know how to solve the context or necessarily what's happening in the
right,
current
right,
context. It just needs to know that
because
there's been a
yeah,
context switch.
because the agent itself in a hierarchy will know what agents can ask to do tasks and have view of what helps is appropriate given what is actually the system
What
prompt is
it's
there to do,
programmed and tested
and
and
can go
thoroughly
back up.
tested to do. Yeah.
Right, right. So
But
all backchat needs to do is saying, I think, mate, there's a context switch here,
mm,
and here's what I
so
think we need.
maybe at the start it would certainly be simpler for me if the bots were programmed to eject out when they detect a topic switch. But
Hmm.
if you find that topic switch detection is itself quite a heavy task, then you and I will chat, and I can put that into backchat, and so it
Well,
runs every prompt.
topic switch is actually not wildly hard. I've got a really shitty version in how
Oh,
free at the
cool.
moment.
Okay. Well, what I hope is that it isn't, because it sounds like something that OpenAI would train the models to be very good at. And my
Probably,
interactions
yeah,
with ChatGPT, I can't break it. I can't scramble its brain by switching topics. It handles it very gracefully. So I expect that internally it knows when a topic switch has happened.
yeah, yeah. But you're absolutely right that backchat is the one that detects it and then says, okay, You were previously talking about CRM. Now you're
Yeah.
talking about weather. Back to the agent and the thread it's in, and the agent goes, I don't know anything about weather. And then what would happen at that point if it is wildly different? So, say if you're talking about CRM,
I
and then you
think
started
there
talking
should
about
be like
colors.
a top level howl that's like the smartest howl we've got that figures out how to get from the user what it needs to fire up direct them
Yeah,
on their way, right?
yeah.
But that's all. That's
I
not the
think I've got a
problem.
vague idea about that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not the problem I want
yeah,
to get into because I think the architecture remains the same for what we have. That's just we'll play with it.
yeah,
The building blocks, I believe, will be the same. The backchat thread that runs some AI intellect, where the the context of backchat is this privileged view of all the agents and all the threads. The threads are running. The threads have a programmed view of what helps are available,
yeah, yeah. What
and
they can and what they can't do.
yeah,
Yeah,
and every agent should know when it's been topic switched on or it can't do what it says, and it should have a standard way to say, nope, can't do it, and then backchat would catch it and do something with it, which might just be send it off to the default smart as fuck bot to figure out what's going on, or
yeah,
send them back to a previous thread or start an agent or whatever. So
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
general structure of it that I think
yeah, yeah, yeah,
doesn't
yeah. No,
change.
no, that's yeah.
The questions you're asking, I don't think they change the architecture. They just mean
No,
that
I
we need
agree.
to play
I
with it
agree.
a bit.
I
Right?
need to think about this. So how to prompt some of these, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so backchat is again the Overwatch.
Yep.
Like change, boom, back to the agent. What do you want to do about this change? I'm like,
Right.
well, I've got these tools, I've got these isolates, and I can do that. I've got these helps. It's like
Yep.
shit, I can't do anything with that.
Yep.
Okay, pop up perhaps. It's
Yep.
like, can you do anything with this? Oh no, that agent would then go back to backchat and say, I can't do anything with this.
Correct. And
Is
then backchat handles
backchat
it.
aware of the hierarchy of child threads?
Yeah. Backchat's aware of all threads.
Right. So an agent just has to say, I've got you on this one, or no fucking idea.
Yeah.
And then every time it goes back to backchat and goes, all right, okay.
Yeah. Backchat knows history. It knows all the threads. What I hope to
Right.
expand it
Yeah.
into
I think it'll work.
is to be able to do a vector search on all your sessions so that it can actually quickly search inside of every session, pull out the most likely thing, all
Yeah.
those good tools. But basically, it pops you up, it looks around on your behalf intelligently at the meta level where it can see outside of all the threads, drops you into one. That's its
Yeah.
job done.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So question. I think I know the answer. Let's see what you think. Right. Stuck. No helps exist. No agents exist. Context switch. Who creates the stuck that could be solved by the creation of a help,
The stuck agent.
potentially an agent? Yeah, because that's quite a big one. It's like,
Right,
okay, you got this thread.
yeah, but
Can't do anything with this.
that's the stuck agent. It's an
Yeah,
agent that is specifically crafted to handle that situation.
right. So in the background, is it back? I think it should be backchat. Spins
Backchat,
off the
yeah,
stuck agent saying,
backchat
Here's
recognizes
where we
it's
got
like,
to.
yeah, like,
Yeah,
and then it's like, here's everything I know, take over.
yeah, 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 and then it comes back with either a help or an agent,
Yeah,
depending on the nature of it.
yeah,
And then that gets there's another one which is like a dispersal. It's like, okay, we've now got this thing that really helps with Rook and Josh to do with spices. We've got a new help for that. And then it needs to update the awareness of the Rook and Josh agent, saying we now know about spices.
yeah. So in that situation, I would imagine that there's a background thread that runs in your hell that keeps an eye out for new helps and agents that are of interest to your sessions. and in particular of interest to your stux that you either created or indicated affinity for, and then it would rerun some of the tasks that you were trying to do with this new upgraded kit. It
Yep.
would appraise the output, and if there was an improvement, it would suggest to you at a suitable time, hey, look, we've improved the system over here.
It'd be cool if that was in the background, right?
Yeah, it should be in the background. And then one day when it's got a good time to say, it's like, hey,
Hey.
Rogan Josh just got better.
Yeah. We were talking about Rogan Josh last month. I now know about spices.
Yeah,
Check this out.
yeah. Or there's been an innovation in the Rogan Josh space. There's been a new kind of spice is brought in from, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
Let's go.
yeah,
Let's go.
so the
Okay.
model holds there, right?
It does. It does.
Okay.
So helps. Pieces of text that contain instructions for an agent. Definition of agent. System prompts and commands for calling isolates. Right. System prompts. Different from commands calling isolates. So
Yeah.
there's two things that an agent knows about. Doesn't it need to know what? Okay, who has the index of helps? It's got to be the agent, hasn't it?
Each agent has a different index of helps because you can't just give an agent all the helps. You need to have tested that agent on a narrow band of helps.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm suggesting is, rather than agents, if we just do a definition of agent, just one,
Yeah.
it has a system prompt, and it has an index of helps and an index of commands for calling isolates. And that's all it knows. It also knows about backchat in terms of its own system prompt.
No, not
It's like,
necessarily. I don't think it's optional. It's optional
oh
that an
no, you're
agent.
right. It's like no, because we're routing it through backchat every time. So
Yeah.
backchat intercepts it. So
You don't
agents
get a
don't know anything about
chance.
backchat.
You don't get the option of
Yeah,
not being watched by backchat.
Sorry, that's
Backchat's always
a
watching.
stupid comment.
Okay, agent
Yeah,
has a system prompt. Again,
yeah,
that's optional too because it could just be raw bot.
could be. And it has an index of helps that it's allowed to use, and it has an index of commands that it's allowed to use. Which means when a
What
prompt
did
is routed through, okay,
What did you
its
say?
capacity,
Have I covered everything there?
its capacity to be made of any combination of system prompt, isolates, and helps. Yes, except without a system prompt, it wouldn't know anything about the isolates or helps. So it could be a
Right.
raw.
Yeah, like that's a valid agent. It's like the special case
Yeah.
agent, which is null, right?
Yeah, that's the null agent. Yeah,
Yeah.
but if it's got an isolate or help, system prompt is going to need to tell it what it can and can do.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just a raw agent. Okay. Right. Okay. So the agent comes up with a problem. Well, no, it goes through backchat. Backchat looks at the context. So backchat has got to have an index of threads.
Yes. Backchat has an index of threads.
Okay, so backchat is presumably personal or organization-wide at a push, I guess.
It's personal. It's more than personal. It's session only. So it's like in each browser thread is one unique backchat.
Right. Okay, so we also need a definition. Just put placeholder in. We need a definition of what backchat is. But presumably then there can be nested backchats, because if I am a customer agent, I'm working away with my backchat, knows all about me, and I do something that needs the duty manager to intercede, then it needs to go up, and then
That's nothing.
up
No,
to the
no, no,
organization.
absolutely not. That's
Yeah.
got nothing to do with. That's a thread-related matter. That's nothing to
So,
do with backchat.
so how does if if you've got a customer agent that comes up with a stuck that's just at the moment going to go to
The
her
stuck agent.
backchat and then into stuck and that sort of thing. But
Yeah,
that stuck, if they're working inside of an organization, is probably to
yeah,
do with an organization's
yeah, yeah.
stuck.
So
So where's it go?
what does the scope of backchat have to do with the scope of the stuck agent?
Um, it's to do with how to a team of 10, each with their own backchat,
Yeah,
own context. One comes up with a stuck.
yeah.
That really has to do with the duty manager. How does the duty
The
manager
stuck,
ever
the
know
stuck,
about it?
the stuck could be completely shared between all members. It could be shared globally.
So
The
you go down to the
the
file level and index it, and
well,
then it's like,
the scope of backchat has nothing to do with the scope of the things that it works upon. Right? Like my computer, my console has control of my network card, but my network card can talk to anyone.
yeah, okay. So let me
Backchat's got nothing to
mildly
do.
push back against that.
Backchat's got
So
nothing to do with what your threads are doing. Your threads, as you added up here, your threads can include API calls to outside services. Backchat doesn't do that. The isolates in the thread do that. The thread itself can be shared between arbitrarily many people.
right, right. And what I'm asking is exactly that. So backchat is thread aware.
Backchat is thread aware, yes. That's its primary
Right,
speciality, is thread aware.
right. Okay, so if we set the scope at one person in an organization of 10, say, um, and there's something here, for example, the creation of a new help. Either we've got a messaging system between backchats, or we've got some kind of hierarchy of backchats. Because otherwise,
The hierarchy of backchats I think you're poking at is the fact that all backchats are forked from a master repo. So that if the helps got updated, each backchat would be merging in the upstream changes to its underlying to the help
okay,
system,
all right, okay.
right?
So we've got the underlying substrate of the text knowledge,
Right.
and the backchats have access to that and index, and cron-wise probably update that index to see if anything new is happening, and then
Yeah.
uh, may go into their individual human that they're looking after
Right.
and update and look through their threads and saying we've added spices and maybe message, as opposed to a hierarchy of backchats all the
Yeah,
way up.
that's right.
Everyone's got an individual. Okay, all right, yeah,
Backchat.
yeah,
There's
okay.
no hierarchy of backchats.
That's nicer. That is nicer.
Yeah, except for the fact that backchat was forked. Originally, Hal was forked to create the actor, and then the actor forked to create backchat. So backchat has access to all of the actor's files, including the threads and all that.
Yep.
It also has access to whatever upstream Hal was set with, like the group of helps and the starting files. And so periodically they
Okay.
they pull down, they pull from their upstream branches to receive updates. That's the hierarchy.
Okay. So can you stick in actor, because we need to define if we're doing a definition session.
What are you trying to get out of this? Because this is very quickly going to pull in the entire system, and we won't get through it.
Okay.
I think,
What I'm trying
right?
to get is definitions of what
All
we're
right.
talking about. So
I don't think all I need is these definitions here. Everything else, I don't really have an issue with. I agree that they need to be done, but I think
okay.
that we will burn a lot of time.
Yeah. No. I don't mind not defining them, but I think just noting So, for example, in that last sentence, you used actors and how, both of which are not defined. So just
Oh,
stick them
yeah,
down
okay.
as a
All right,
note
cool. All right.
that we need
Well,
to
do
do.
you want to give me some rapid fire words then, and I'll patch in some
Uh,
things here.
an actor is a human user. Yeah. Okay, that's good enough for now. I don't want to spend too much time on this, as you say. And then when we talk about how, we're talking about an agent, but like a top level smart agent.
Sorry, what are the other words you want me to add?
It was just actor and how.
Okay.
Others will come up as we chat, but it'd be really useful even just to put markers in, saying, well,
All
that's
right. And
kind
where
of
do you
what
want
we're
this
talking about.
file to be?
I assume it is on Git somewhere.
Yeah, it's in my notebook. To um I'll move it to inside the how repository. How about that?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Put it in the old readme.
yeah. It's interesting because um, system prompts really, really help with definitions. If you don't have
Yeah, I know,
definitions, they go bad.
right?
They go bad.
Okay, all right. So I'll commit those changes and then I'll edit again. All right. What else would you
Right.
like in here?
Good. Good. Right. We don't need to spend any more time other than the bits that you need. But it's yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
So backchat, yeah, I mean, a special thread aware thread. Um,
yep. Yeah. And is backchat the only one that can actually change the underlying substrate of the file system?
no, any thread can change that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but backchat specializes in being aware of threads, um, branches within the Git structure, commits within those branches, and files within the file system. So it is quite a heavy job. It may be too big for one bot, but in general, it can navigate the metadata around a thread, whereas a thread is supposed to be not concerned with all these things like what's a branch, what's a commit, what do you mean there's multiple versions of me running at this very
Yeah,
moment,
the way I'm thinking about doing backchat is getting a list of things that it's allowed to do,
right?
and then having sub agents that are very closely knit to the actual command, because
Right.
otherwise the system prompt's going to
It's
get
too big. Yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah.
huge. Yeah,
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 look, I'll leave that up to you, but it does sound like it's that kind of a thing where it can decide like, are you trying to navigate commits, branches, or
yeah,
files, and then it
yeah,
sort of picks one of those, and then that specialist comes on to play.
yeah, and also allows us to isolate any changes. So if we need to change how commits are being done,
Yeah,
we're
right.
not messing around with the
Yeah,
system
right.
prompt.
That's a real good plan. I think that sounds great to me. But like I said, this is your area of expertise. I'm giving you the I can't I can't change these things. Like I'm like we are committed to files, commits, branches, and threads.
Yeah,
But how
yeah.
you AI that is, I think, there's a lot of leeway there.
Uh, this might be hubris, but what's that thing that mathematicians say? A solution is evident, but I've not solved it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the way I've been thinking about Backchat is actually it it is the UI in a way because this whole UI is this weird. It's weird, actually, the concept of a UI where it translates a natural language logic problem into a geometric form, like tabs
Mm.
and drop down buttons and all that. And
Mm.
it's really asking me to reframe my question in terms of geometry and shapes.
It's good that way, isn't it? I'm thinking the same thing. It's
Right?
it's
It's
uh, it's quite punishing if you're paying attention, uh, but it's punishing in a good way, which is why definitions absolutely necessary, and global definitions as well as local definitions, which is topic for another day. I'm thinking about.
yeah,
Um,
okay. So where are we at then? So which one of these two do we prefer?
System prompts and commands calling isolates has a quest to be made of any combination of a sys prompt. I prefer the agent. However, we could still
Yeah,
tighten that up if you want to
okay.
do a bit of wordsmithing.
Why don't I grab this and I'll just put that there and then wipe this out.
When they're invoked using an AI model, the invocation becomes a threat. Okay, yes. So it doesn't have the capacity. It consists of either the null prompt or a system prompt.
Why don't I just ignore the null prompt for the sake of the definition? Because it's like the null system prompt is still technically a system prompt.
It is, but a null system prompt can't access isolates and helps.
Yep.
So it consists of a system prompt.
Well, you could
You
could call it the null isolate. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Consists of a system prompt and optionally isolates and helps, because it doesn't need necessarily isolates and helps. Optionally isolates and helps. I don't know if we want to tighten that up further by saying indexed on its intent of the system prompt.
No, that's you're trying to say too much about how it should do what it does.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow that. What you just said, you don't have to make. You can make it be complete garbage. It's still an agent.
Yeah. Well, what we're saying there, an agent is a system prompt. System prompts may know about isolates and helps. Yeah. Okay. I'm cool with that. Yeah. When they're invoked using an AI model, the invocation becomes a thread. Brilliant. Then threads are a running agent. Yep. Containing stateful conversation and the file system in a possibly mutated state. That's a fork, I'm assuming.
Well, it's the next commit because the thread starts with a file system. Oh, that was what isolates file system. There. So the agent itself can come with some files in a file system if that is what was required for making it work.
Imagine you wanted an agent that only knew about VAT.
Right.
You
Then
want to have
threads
to those.
Threads can start with a different set of files that are sort of added on to or merged with the agent file system. And so, for example, threads might be like when I'm in the CRM, the customer list, that folder. But what I intend for threads is that they start in a very scoped way. So, like, we'd kick off the agent for the customers, and it would only be able to see the customers folder with all the customers within it. It couldn't see the routing folder, it couldn't see the banking folder, it couldn't see any of that. It's only able to see this thing. The thread has access to the live version of those files, and when the thread makes changes, it knows what saving means. Where saving is, I'm going to merge to parent.
Yes. Yes, and damn it, sorry, man. I forgot what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. About conflicts. You were saying that you're working on that. So two custom agents trying to save the same file at the same time.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna it's first in first served in the wild west of prototype development.
Okay, fair enough. Right.
When I
And then
spoke
presumably some
to
kind of
the
response going, yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's just gonna come back and be like, your coworker, blah blah blah, change this.
yeah,
When I
yeah.
spoke to the trucking guys about that, they were like, look, that
Mhm.
happens so rarely that they're not even concerned about that. So
It's a factor of the number of users, or the
yeah,
number of inputs, or whatever
well,
changing.
number of users and number of concurrently modified files, really, because
Right. Yeah, yeah.
so they don't reckon they have that problem, and if they did, so long as I'm not introducing corruption into the system, like so long as one of those two users got an error message, it doesn't actually matter who, I don't think. So long
Yeah.
as one of them knew that what they tried to save didn't save, that's good enough
And
for now.
that's kind of the job of isolate, isn't it? It's like, what's the state? I'm not locking it. I want to make this
Yeah,
right. Was it successful? Yes, no. If it was
yeah,
no, then
yeah.
it's
And
like,
if it's no,
that
then
didn't work. And then you just leave it.
it'll be
Yeah.
a very very simple error. It'll be like changed changed while writing, and then the AI can decide
Right. But
what do I
the
do.
AI can deal with that. It's like
Yeah,
you can then go back around the loop and saying, well, if you change this field and I want to change that field, no harm, no foul.
yeah,
If we're trying to both save the field itself, then bump
right.
it up.
Or if we're both
Yeah.
trying to change the bank balance, that's an issue. So
Well, yeah,
let's
yeah.
fucking call someone.
Excuses. Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so
Yep, that works.
that's so far how I'm planning to handle conflicts. I'm not. I know it is an issue. It needs to be dealt with more formally, but I'm not too concerned about it because Git is all about conflicts. Like that's the key feature of the
Yeah.
Git data structure, and so
Yeah.
we can handle that many ways. I don't think we need to pick one solidly now, so long as we choose the
Well,
safe one.
what we just talked about is good enough, right?
Yeah, good enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right.
It's looking good,
Yeah.
buddy. It's looking good.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else?
Mate, I don't actually.
Right. Okay. Let me take the screen, and I'd love your thoughts on this. So, um, I've been looking. I've been doing way too much on text files, copying and pasting, and on whiteboards. And so I looked around to see if anyone had an IDE of any kind that would actually could be bent to our will.
Okay.
Um, and
You were going to share the screen?
I'm sharing the screen. Yeah. So I looked at a couple. Well,
Boy,
there's more than a couple.
boy,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a heavy one.
This is not mine. This is not mine. This is pulled down
Oof.
from some random dude's GitHub. Um, so what there is
Boy.
here is something very similar in terms of visualizing. So I don't have to write down and then throw out a piece of paper or lose something because the dogs wipe themselves up against the whiteboard and that sort of thing. So I was looking for something that could do it. Now this has all the key aspects, I think. Well, I need. I'm going to get into this a bit more. So there's this. This is called Rivet, and the other one I was looking at is Flowise, which does something very similar. But this one I think is better. It was originally. It's been around for a while as a visual way of non-AI data flows.
Right, for
So it's got
chatbots, right?
logic. Right. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Well, not even chatbots.
Just
Before that,
no code
there's
flows.
no code flows. Yeah. And it seems pretty stable, and it allows things like, for example, here you got your user input, you got persona, that is then put into the persona in this subgraph. It's got vector database and it's got persistent storage at the back. I'm not planning on using that, but what I was looking for your view on, now it's a tricky question because you've only just seen this, but the interesting thing, this is just a visual way of me not having to copy and paste and, write weird, stuff down and try and figure it out on paper. But it does output in a standard way. I've not looked at this, but it looks like I could crack on using the chat box, or using the models, backchat, HAL, and so on. Add some logic in there. So, for example, remember when HAL 3 at the moment just is a bit of an arse because it tries to find your intent, but it really should decide whether it's a trivial question you've just asked, or maybe an intermediate, or whether you're asking something new. And so there is logic based into that, but all of this is natural language as it's flowed through. It seems to me, of the IDEs that are around, and this is open source, so that's all fine. It seems to be this could be a good way of designing the structure, then exporting it, and then we'd have to deal with how to make that into Dreamcatcher land, into HAL land, but it seems to be quite a good way of architecting. So at first blush, I guess, you see any problems with this? And I'm not talking about the details, just take as read that you can pull in models, you can pull in logic. These subgraphs are like the loops that we're talking about. So where's the subgraphs? Subgraphs, data. Okay, so then it comes into a separate screen with blank. Okay, so that's a chunk, like a function, but it's still all natural language. Got some core memory, and it's got the ability, we'll go back to the main, the ability to learn back, because it's got some persistent memory which can then be ingested into the session about what you're doing. It seems quite a nice tool, but what do you reckon? Is this worth spending a bit of time on using it in order to, well, to avoid you having to create an IDE, right? That's basically what we're talking about.
So our theory is that we can actually mimic any white paper that you find that describes how to do some new AI thing, like the three versions with different temperatures that come back and get summarized, all those kinds of things. I think what we're saying is that a suitably complete workbench would be able to make replicas of any other system design, like Crew AI. Any of the agentic systems should be able to be expressed in a workbench like this, right? Is that right?
That's exactly it. And,
okay. All right,
and
that includes,
it doesn't touch any code.
That includes our system should be able to be expressed in this system.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So that says to me that there's a general need, or there's almost like a self-fulfilling standard where we can quickly arrive at every system can make every other system, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not showing you here, but there's another one called Flowise.
Yeah, same deal, right? It's going to be the same.
Back from these guys. These guys have been at it longer.
Right. And then, so what all these guys will be trying to do is try and put AI in here so that the AI can help you write your flows.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. help you write your flows, but also architect the flows for sandboxing.
Yeah, right. So that's what I meant. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the AI is aware of how to use the studio environment to execute your will with less and less clicks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. They will also then start to form marketplaces where people can trade and share and build on these different snippets of theirs.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
No doubt. Yeah.
There's no evidence of it, but that's an
Right.
obvious next step.
So, my opinion on this is that the the more adaptive or the more compatible way to go is to all of this code, like this looks like a lot of code, like straight off the bat. I'm like, well, that's
Oh, you mean under the hood?
under the hood. I'm like,
Yeah.
ouch,
No
like
doubt. No doubt.
that's
Yeah.
a lot.
I've not looked at it.
And it won't, because of the way that it has to be so compatible, it won't be easily extendable or bendable. Like, if you want to do things a different way, you're gonna need to follow, like, they would have had to bake their philosophy into each and every one of those components. And if you pick something
Yeah, but
different, you're
the
fucked.
there's two things there. The philosophy they've followed is essentially logic black boxes, input and output,
Mm-hmm.
like any other programming language.
Mm.
However, I've watched a couple of videos where there's this German dude trying to get this actually up in an application, and oh my god, it's so painful. It's like life is too short.
That's too short. But it's more the thing I want to get at is that, like, UI is the enemy. UI should be not how you input things. It should be how you read things in a hurry.
I agree, but the reason I'm recommending using something like this, either this or Flowwise, and there's a couple of others that I haven't mentioned that are really rubbish, is in the bootstrapping sense. We don't have the
Oh yeah, look,
system.
I think you should
But
use whatever the hell you feel comfortable with, because it's better than copying and pasting. But
yeah,
I'm just trying to get at where I see our system going. I love these systems, but what makes me cry is the amount of code that they represent and the naturally unbendable nature of such a complex thing.
well, that's
And
the interesting thing on that one.
yeah,
So
can you let me finish? Let me finish.
yeah, sorry, man.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So the way that I envisage this working for us is that we have these graphs can be represented as mermaid diagrams that GPT-4o can generate based on how we've laid things out. Like, we want to be defining a markdown format by which we describe these flows, and they were generated by the chatbot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when we go into, Mermaid to look at it to figure it out.
Yeah. So the
Our
mermaid,
markdown, it's all still in text. It's all got to be text.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the bots can also generate. See, like, an example of where a hard boundary problem is occurring is when you go into the subgraph. You can't be like, give me all the parts of every subgraph that change the color of the stop sign outside, right? Like, because it is code, it's not, you can't present it in nicer ways. It's you can't redefine this interface without a lot of pain, right? But we need to be able to define it on the fly very softly.
Well, here's a thought. I agree. The reason I'm drawn to this is the bootstrapping thing because
I'm
it's
not
written
like go
paper.
for it. Yeah, go for it. Go for it. I'm
The
not concerned
one,
with bootstrapping at all.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to get you a tool that
So the one
means
layer
you
up
don't.
from that, it would be again back to my ideal where all I've got is a display and me talking.
Mm.
Would be right. Can you tell me about get previous data from data storage because this problem that happened 5 minutes ago with Mrs. Miggins in accounts happened and it seems to have gone wrong. And it's like, okay, so this is why it went wrong. It's like, okay, and then we get a number of bots looking at it and going,
Mm-hmm.
okay, right, fork it, stick into a sandbox and test it. Would that error have occurred with this new one? It's like, no, great, merge, back in.
Right.
So that's where. But the interesting thing with well, there's a couple ones. Number one, visually, it can be displayed. They're displaying it, but under the hood, it is all text, which makes me think that a suitably trained architect bot, you could say to okay, add me a new subgraph, and I wanted to do this, and then it'll come back saying, okay, I need to understand exactly how does that wire up. This
Yeah,
is going to be
I
the
don't
contraindications and so on.
I don't like that because we've learned from the past that the data structure needs to be in favor of the bot. That data structure is in favor of the code base. We need to evolve ourselves a little format that enables the same features you're talking about. The features you're talking about, I agree with them. I love them. The data format, you can't roll into this with a data format that was built for
Yeah,
machines. Is
yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah,
So
yeah. I agree. I agree.
we'll figure one out because when I look at that data format, I'm like, well, first of all, that's so big that the amount of tokens you couldn't possibly hope for it to all be correct.
Yeah, and if
There's
you
all
look
this.
at some really easy stuff like, um, you know, while loops, or even if else,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot of
So
lines that
right,
are
and what it seems to be too is that GPT-4 has extensive knowledge of like markdown state diagrams and state diagrams in general, and so if you talk to it in its area of expertise and use that, I think you can actually make a better version of this for a lot less effort. So
yeah.
yeah, so how we were gonna do the wiring, man, I just got a jumble of ideas on it, but surely it looks something like it's a state diagram or something, right? Because remember back in the day when we talked about the being able to have datums and processes. I forget what
Yeah,
we
that's right.
workflows
Yep.
was what we called them.
Right.
And the
Yep.
idea was if you could define this workflow and then you had these datums which were standard data records, then you should be able to do anything you like in the business.
Yeah.
We appear to have good handles on what a datum is by way of like the customer records and the templating and the
Well, they're just effectively text files,
text files, yeah.
and we know
But
how to do that. Yeah.
we haven't yet stepped into the realm of what a workflow would be.
Right.
So what I put
Right.
to you is I am sorry that you were copying and pasting. I don't want to stop you solving that any way you want. My opinion is that this tool will soak your time and your frustration because you'll hit the edges of this box very, very quickly and you'll be mad. And so, what I'd suggest to you is a better
Mm-hmm.
use of your time
Mm-hmm.
is to figure out how to get GPT-4 to reason about and interact with you in mermaid diagrams,
That I can work with,
right? And I'll
and
give you a
it
special
would
little.
be, I suspect, it would be trivial, or not trivial, half a day maybe, to take, because this is well structured. I can translate into mermaid diagrams, which is
Like
the
if you,
language
yeah,
that we're dealing with.
even if you ignore the AI and you were to give me a collection of mermaid diagrams that you were like, I want this implemented, and you used AI to generate those mermaid diagrams, and then you committed them into the Hell repo, that's an extremely useful thing for you to give me, because I can look at that and be like, first of all, yes, I know what
Okay,
you
I
want,
can do that. Right.
and second
Yeah.
of all, I can or can't do that for you. But
Yeah.
possibly, hopefully, the third thing is that you figure out how to prompt these things to be fluent in interacting with mermaid diagrams. Because if you can do that, then I can throw the mermaid diagram up on the screen, no problem. But if you can
Yeah.
figure out how to make a bot that's good at that, we
Oh,
have
right.
this
Okay,
this
that's
thing
the
and
right
more,
proof.
right?
Okay, so
That's a better part.
what was? Sorry, I'm talking over you again. Sorry.
Okay,
Finish. Yeah.
so the tool, I'm just gonna, don't get mad. I know you get mad when I take the screen off you. I'm gonna just,
When have you ever known I'm mad?
oh, you sound mad right now.
Sometimes I get Scottish. That's it.
Okay, so this is Mermaid has released a GPT in the GPT store
Okay.
that allows you to chat with it about flowcharts. So for you to generate the diagrams that I am requesting of you, you may find this tool better than copying and pasting, because it is trained by the mermaid people to show it or reason about it, and then um, actually make the picture for you, which is
Right.
not something that comes up automatically.
Right. And what you're saying is, if the natural, okay, so we've
Yeah,
got
look. So
files
that's what
static,
this
but
mermaid thing does for you, right?
yeah, but what we don't have is the process. Now that this process is just going to be another file. Now, uh, here's what I think I'm going to do. Can use this tool. I can create a bot that takes their export and create it into a mermaid, and then create a bot that interprets mermaid into a process, and we'll see how it goes.
Yep, because we've already got all that thinking on once you have a process, when you execute it, that is a thread. And as it
Yeah,
turns out, back in the day, many years ago, we'd called those sessions or threads or whatever. Now we have this new thing of a thread, which is an AI conversation. It's no bloody different.
yeah,
It's an agent whose sysprompt is a flowchart, and the thread is it working its way through the flowchart with or without help from the user, because it might just be calling functions and then waiting for the response,
yeah.
right? But
And
that's just a thread.
there's a bit to do in terms of getting the isolates, for example, writing to vector store or writing to or retrieving information and so on. But that those can be stubs for now.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are not the problem. The problem is, how do we interpret flows of things?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because that's the missing piece on this one. Because the intelligence is not actually in the prompting, although that is a thing. The intelligence really is in wiring up exactly what we were spending the last couple of months on. How do you wire up these bots to talk to each other?
right. The topology. I know
The
that.
topology, exactly. Yeah,
I know I poo-pooed that when it
I
first
prefer
came on the scene.
architecture, but let's go with topography because
Topography. Sorry, yes, that's the one.
OpenAI likes topography, but I
Yeah,
think it's an architecture.
yeah. So I think you'll find this tool able to get you save you a lot of copy
So
pasting.
how do I access that? Is it
I
like
think you just
forward
go
slash
into the
mermaid or something?
GPTs, explore GPTs, and then you
Oh, right.
go
Okay. Right. Gotcha. Yeah, that's easy enough. Yeah.
mermaid.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do is I'll use
Yeah.
this UI because it's better than whiteboards, and then I'll do an export and translation into Mermaid, and then I'll look at how you get bots to ingest two things: the static data and the flow, which is also static data, but consider those.
Yeah.
This is here's what I'd act on. Here's how I'm going to do it. That is, that's very, very doable.
That's way better.
Yeah,
And then you're still getting the intellectual progress that you need for our system, but you're not wasting your time with this other system that will cost
yeah,
you, but you're also not bringing their thinking baggage in because you're
yeah. Well,
starting as pure AI.
yeah. I'll still do it, but without the there's no intention of. I think where they're intending on is you have this UI, and then you build up a bot swarm, and then you expose it in a UI. Which I haven't done very well yet, and then all happy. But as you say, it's static. However, there is a subset of the stuff that they're doing here that um, is basically like a diagramming tool for an architect.
Right. Yeah, right.
Um,
Because mate,
as long as you've got
if
that
you could
translation
yeah,
set.
if you could describe the things you want to happen, like we should be able to actually describe version 1 of HAL with like the stuck agent and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
all backchat and different types of agent and thread. You should be able to describe that as a workflow.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Okay,
And
good.
yeah, so if you give me those
Yeah,
charts, I'll go through them with you, and we can hopefully implement them. But dude, if you can make bots that can interpret that, we can just plug that shit straight in, and you're
should be
off.
because mermaid charts are well structured and can give
Yeah,
examples
yeah.
and they can
GPT-4
string.
knows
They're
what
not.
a
They're not
lot
going to. Yeah, they're
and
not going to
knows
go
them.
wrong. Yeah, they're not going to go wrong.
Mm. And again, it's
Okay.
plain text, right? I mean, what fucking format is that you like? If you try to pick that up in 20 years' time from a Git archive, you'd be
Yeah.
like, "What is
Well, this
this
is the
thing?"
tyranny of anything that's not plain text, right?
Yeah, right. The tyranny of yeah. We need a
I
word
don't
for
know what you
that.
call that. I'm sure there's a fucking book in there somewhere. But as soon as you get anything other than plain text, then you're locked into the likes of fucking Jira or the like. Probably someone's written a book on this by now, I'm sure. Plain text is the lingua franca between systems. It's the only way to move stuff. As soon as you go into anything proprietary, then you start to fuck up. Which is why, well, you and me both hate fucking tools.
Tools are shit.
Yeah. Tyranny of obfuscated code. That's about course, isn't it?
What about the tyranny?
Complexity.
The
Actually, all these verbose formatting, complex syntax, obfuscate code, intricate styling, elaborate formatting. You could describe any of these
the
business tools or anything
tyranny
like that.
of file format.
And it's like,
Oh, it's any file format, really, isn't it?
yeah, it's anything other than text because then you get distracted into fucking weirdness. It's like, oh, how do I fucking send a message to this guy? Where's that message? Where is that? I don't know, just go on.
The
But
tyranny. Here we
it's
go.
same with thread. It's like, yeah.
The tyranny of everything but text.
That's quite funny.
That's funny.
Okay, all right, good. So what I'm going to do is I will use this as a substitute for whiteboards, and with the benefit that I can actually test some sysprompts out. But the main thing is translate that into Mermaid, and then the important thing is get some way of natural language interpretation of a mermaid chart into a process.
Yeah,
Which is
and
quite
vice versa,
interesting.
and vice versa.
Yeah. And with logic as well, because
Yeah. With rules like
yeah,
actual like if this then that blah blah blah, and
yeah.
then
Need the dough until when? It's like, oh, exactly.
right.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
that's
Good.
way fun. That's like super useful for us as opposed to like just solving your one problem, which is the bootstrap problem. This is a core part of what we're doing.
Yeah.
This fits
Okay. Cool.
into even the beginnings of the CRM because it's like, when a customer record has altered, you now have to trigger a bunch of things. Like,
Yeah.
do I need to update the accounting records because was the customer deleted and they had some balance remaining? Did the address change? Does that mean I need to contact the routing agent and get the next run updated?
Right. Or
You know,
probably you call an agent saying my actor has just asked this. Can I do that?
right,
Permission
right.
advised.
And so
So
when you have these flows, what I would expect, because this is really the tool that the business owners have to use. I would expect that they can come in with, sure, you've got the diagram, but they should be able to ask tests like what happens when a customer address changes. Um,
right,
you know,
it'll say it'll
and
percolate
then
through the flow and say this is updated, this is
yeah,
updated, and
the
so on.
bot should be able to answer them, and that should be one of the unit tests that they
Right.
are allowed to put in that validate the system from their point of view.
Yeah.
You know, and almost being able
Exactly.
to spec out you could in one way spec out the flowchart by just saying the rules that need to pass, like every Wednesday no customers get collected, and then it's like, okay, you know, like it,
Yeah.
you should be able to say a bunch of rules and the flowchart should respect it, as well as you being able to change the flowchart as well.
Yeah.
And it might be, this is going to be the last point I make because this is just an idea, but it
Uh-huh.
might be that when you're instructing the bot to make changes to the flowchart, what it does in parallel is makes changes to the rules that define the flowchart as well as changing the flowchart. So actually, the flowchart is a derivative of the rules that were given, because that gives you a cleaner source. Trying to edit the flowchart directly is dangerous, but
Mm-hmm.
deriving the flowchart from a set of axioms is reliable, safe, predictable, testable, explainable, all those things.
Right. So if one of these links is knead the dough until your wife says stop kneading the dough, that'd be an axiom. The axiom would be always check with your wife about
Correct,
whether you've kneaded the
correct,
dough. Yeah.
correct, correct, correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Editing the diagram directly is asking for trouble because
Yeah.
people don't think about the side effects of an arrow or the side effects of a state,
And
right?
there's no way to test it exhaustively, but obviously with enough tokens, you just
Right.
run through with your tests, which
Right,
is
right. But
yeah.
if actually it's a set of axioms that define the flowchart, and there's some chat help that helps, you're like, well, buddy, you haven't given me enough rules to make a flowchart, so I'm gonna need some, like, how long are you gonna need for? What if it gets stuck forever?
Well,
Blah blah blah.
this is the beautiful thing. If you make well, Half 3 right now, I'm working on Half 4. It's going to be another week because it's not high priority. But Half 3 is really pissy. So even asking for something, it makes sure it's really exact about what you've
Mm,
asked for.
mm,
And in the same way, it's like it could be given a flow in
mm.
Mermaid,
Mate,
and just say
I'll
be
bet
really
you
pissy
that
about this.
I'll I'll bet you that the base model of 4.0 knows enough about flowcharts to be able to quiz you endlessly
Oh, that's
about
interesting.
missing pieces, right? Right?
I think my there's a target shift going on here. Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. So at the moment, what was 4.0, which is just on paper, I was going to have different blocks. Is a decision is this trivial to answer? Is this slightly
Oh,
ambiguous?
you
And
danger.
then it's
Big danger. You
uh,
started trying to make GPT, didn't you?
yeah.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you refer it to a flow and just get it to be pissy about the flow, and if it can do it trivially,
Yeah.
crack on.
It should, and we gotta bet that GPT-5 will be even more aware of state diagrams, logic, all
Yeah.
those things, right? We gotta bet that. And so it's a dangerous path to be trying to break apart the model's behavior into
Well, that's
a
what
block
most of
diagram.
the agentic dudes are doing at the moment.
I know,
And
but
they're going to be wiped out
what
in
we
6
really
months.
want is to have the model able to generate the flows. So that makes us like ultra adaptive because we just shuffle some rules around and then
Yeah. From the axioms and
right.
some general rules,
Right.
and then
But
some specific
we
information.
also want to primarily bet on like all these tools that we've talked about for making the prompt awesome, like 3 different samples, different temperatures. Those ought to be wiped out by GPT-5 or GPT-6. And so
Yeah.
those are not actually critical pieces of, I want to say proprietary knowledge, but we're giving it away. But you know what I mean? Like it's
Mm.
the essence of the system is not that. The essence of the system is things like backchat. Like backchat is an architectural choice that
This.
no model is
I
going to change.
I absolutely agree. I think the way to win in this game is in the architecture, um, uh, and in the intent, because yeah, next version 5, 6, whatever it is,
Yeah,
they're going
but
to
being able
bring
to
agentic into that.
right,
And it's just obvious.
being able to communicate with the user is still critical. And so even if we're not using the flows for our own internal programming because GPT-5 is so good it doesn't need them, the business owners still need to look at a diagram because they need to write out their rules in a
Well,
list
this
and
is
then
the way I've been
reason about
describing
them.
it actually. I've been describing it as regardless of the model, you don't build to the model because the models are coming through
Fast.
at and
Yeah.
the tempo on exponential rise seems to be about 6 months ish. So you can pretty much imagine that the models are going to get better and better at the um, the internal workings of it,
Right.
a bit like the internal workings of a chip.
Yeah.
But the business rules, the knowledge about how to use that chip, uh, it's never going to know because maybe you have something weird. Maybe you only allow people with names that start with
Yeah,
vowels
but that's the
to
thing,
work
though.
on a Wednesday.
That's private data. That's data
Yeah,
that it never belongs to anyone but the business owners. And no matter what the models become, no model's going to get that right first shot. And
yeah,
that's why we need to focus on being able to capture these rules and derive how we use the models and shit off of
yeah,
that. It's those
yeah,
rules and communicating with the users, showing them nicely, like, here's a state diagram. The state diagram was invented in 18 blah, blah, blah. So this serves as a good reference. And then that's the thing that we're always pushing. The
yeah.
model just, should lift us beyond, all this other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And anyone trying to work against the model or anyone writing for this model is just doomed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's dangerous what you were doing then.
Yeah, yeah. Good, good. Um, uh, it's good point out, and I will use this just because it's an easy way of moving stuff around and
Sure.
linking
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
up. But
sure.
let's get that translation. So the endpoint is mermaid,
Mm.
and then
Um,
then you
I
need to
just
look
also
at
I also want to temper that building for the model thing,
mm,
and say that what we really want is a highly flexible AI controlled way to generate prompt architectures, agentic architectures on the fly, so that first of all we're really good for 4.0, so we're really good right now. But as
yeah.
soon as 5 comes, we still have that flexibility of like there will always be ways to juice the model with a better
Well,
um
the you remember? Oh, it's way back in Traceability 3, I think it was,
mm,
when I built up the bot swarm in order to make system prompts.
yeah.
Um, uh, Expecting is that to be ingested into the next version of the version after that, but the thinking again is in the architecture. Is how you wire it together. It's
So
what you use it for.
what I want is the the ability to wire it, you where AI does the wiring for me. I can turn up with just a loose idea of something I want to play with, and it makes it for me. I don't want to. We should never care about a specific topography. We should care about being able to rapidly stand up any topography. That's
Yes.
important.
Yeah. I agree. And again, Traceability 3 took a very baby step towards that, and it did quite well actually.
Okay.
With lots of cut and pasting. Okay, all right, grand. Probably need to go.
Sweet.
God knows what time it is. You're just coming up for 11 o'clock.
Cool, man.
Right.
That was a really great, unexpected win.
We're getting into the meat of it now, I think.
Yep.
So don't know how long it's going to take me to figure this out. Don't know, but okay.
So I'm really like knocking on the door of backchat up and running. Like I'm like, yeah, sort of day or two away type of feeling about it. It's working so great, and I managed to fix a whole lot of other performance issues that had annoyed me in the code base too along the way because I revamped it significantly. So it's going great. So I really hope within the next couple of days I have a backchat to show you.
That would be awesome.
But I will need a prompt.
Yeah.
I will need a prompt, and I'll need to give you isolates.
Well, that's our lingua franca, isn't it? Is prompt, isolates, and the architecture in Mermaid.
Yeah.
And obviously static information about whatever you want to use it for. Okay, that was a really powerful session, man. Yeah, it was what at the top of the call was saying, yeah, life, however, tech going really well. Really see how to do this, and it doesn't seem that hard.
It's not, dude. It's not, and that's sort of that's the cool thing, and it's also the danger. But so long as our system is actually a very simple, not hard system, we will be in the greatest place to benefit from GPT-5 because it'll land and we'll just be like, oh, there was nothing to our system, and now it just got better.
Yeah, we have a lot of dudes in that area. Right. Okay.
All right.
We're back going.
Sweet, buddy.
Dogs and stuff out. Nice one. Right. I'm around tomorrow morning. I'm going to be doing this. It's probably going to take, I don't know, a handful of days before something really interesting happens. But
give me a buzz. Ask me questions. It's always great to chat.
Yeah. Cool. Nice one.
All right.
All right, man.
See you later.
See you later.